All right, welcome to the first video in our series of videos looking at the different parts of our digital solutions documentation process. The first of which being around creating our mind map. So before we get into the how do we go about creating a mind map, just a quick discussion on the what and the why. So a mind map is a diagram or a graphic which shows the different components of our digital solution, the different considerations that we're looking at, and also how they connect and relate to each other. So the reason why we would look at using a mind map instead of perhaps a different method of explaining that exploration process is, first of all, it's a really good systems analysis and systems thinking tool in that it does show those connections between all of the components. So we can see what ideas, branch from each other or have some sort of commonality to them. And also we can use it as a computational thinking tool in the decomposition of our ideas. So as we take the big idea and we chunk it into smaller pieces, we can see that quite easily through our mind map. In terms of the how to do that, there's no one way to do a mind map, similar to there's no one true way of solving a digital problem. It's all about finding a system that works for you. So what I'm going to do is show you my thought process and how I like to do it. You can choose to, borrow that process, or you can develop your own. In terms of the software, I'm using an online application called mindmapmaker.org. I know a lot of students have access to FreeMind on the USB, which is a bit different. I personally don't like the tree branch looking mind maps. I like these more free flow ones that have a bit of a center base and then branch outwards. Again, personal preference, you choose what's best for you. So the scenario that we're going to look at developing a mind map for as we go through the how-to is for a digital school diary. All right, so essentially at Brisbane SDE, we do use a student planner, which we give to the students. It is a hard copy, and there is absolutely advantages to, having a hard copy book that you have to write with a pen on. But being digital solutions, we want to come up with a digital equivalent of that. So what we can do is put that as the central idea. So we actually call it digital student planner. Obviously, I'm talking about this and doing it as we go, purely to talk about my thought process, but often I would actually do this on paper first, and then I would publish it in something like MindMapMaker. The reason for that is generally the ideas are quicker from pen to paper than what they are from head to keyboard, because you have to obviously use more than one hand or finger to access that. So once we've got our initial idea in the center, I usually like to create 3 branches. And these represent, I guess, the main stakeholders in any solution. So again, it doesn't matter the order or where you place them. This is just a force of habit. So client, user, and developer. So the client being the person who, I guess, approaches you with the problem. The user being the person or groups of people that are actually going to access that device or the solution. And then the developer is obviously, in this case, us. So we're the ones developing the solution. So what do we need to consider as we're actually putting it together? All right, so already you can see we're decomposing the problem into, in this case, the different perspectives on who wants what, I suppose, or who needs what. So with the client, generally there's only one client. So in this case, I'll put that there. So the school, Brisbane STE. So I guess in terms of what they need or want is they need or want a system for you know, organising students in terms of their work. So organising students' work. So I guess things like publishing deadlines. Try it again. Just bring that into the space. Deadliness, I can't spell. All right, so, you know, I guess that they're probably the two main things the current manual offline planner is about, is helping students to organise their work, place for them to put their deadlines, perhaps goals as well as another one I know we talk about a bit here at the school. So outlining the goals. I want to say student goals because again it's not for the school. Obviously we can spend some time fixing that up as we go. All right, so I guess as more comes to mind, we can come back. That's another great thing about mind maps is, you know, they can be a bit of a working document, so you can continually update them. Obviously, we do ask you to publish it at some point, you know, for assessment purposes, but, you know, you can keep coming back to this and evolving it throughout the project. There's nothing wrong with that. So in terms of the users, the main users are going to be the students. All right, so for them, it's about keeping track of due dates. What else would it be about for students? I guess, you know, maybe I guess, you know, it could also be parents that are interested in this, so in the sense of supporting their children. I'd say often parents are, you know, reminding students about their deadlines and whatnot. And I guess as well, there's probably going to be some input from the teachers, so, you know, they're going to be doing a lot of the adding in due dates and that sort of thing as well. So, you know, make it easier for the students. Make it harder for the teachers, but that's all right. All right, so then us as the developer, all right, we need to start thinking about what we have to do. And generally with developer considerations, I then like to, you know, branch this into 3 parts before we even get that far into the specifics. And that's just roughly into the 3 elements that we, or 3 components of any digital problem and solution. So data, code, and interface. So in terms of the data, I guess we're just starting to think about what sort of things we have. So, you know, the subjects that students are taking, I guess, you know, their timetable classes perhaps, you know, so what classes they have or subjects, at what time. Right, obviously the assessment due dates is a big one. All right, so, you know, that's a bit of a start in terms of what we perhaps need. We'll expand on all this going forward, obviously. So in terms of the code, I usually like to match, this should fairly well match up the requirements of what we want. So, being able to add due dates, and I guess displaying upcoming assessment. What else do we probably want? Student goals was one that we had with the client. So saving and monitoring goals perhaps. All right, so then we've got our interface. So in terms of the interface, we probably want to keep it pretty simple. Actually, rather than using simple, let's talk about it in terms of the usability principle. So I guess even again talking about this idea of breaking down problems. So interface we can often consider in terms of our usability considerations, accessibility, effectiveness. I might have to start branching them down around a bit here. Just scroll down a bit more. Effectiveness. Learnability. And the other two, safety. And utility. So I guess just going back to front. So in terms of utility, I guess what we want to have is availability across devices. So maybe a responsive interface. Right, so it can be accessed on a phone. Oh, that doesn't do multi-line. That's okay. So the phone. Just had to stretch it a little bit longer. Tablet. Or even laptop. Right, so in terms of safety, I guess this might be me coming from a teacher's background, but preventing accidental deletion is a big one. So making it hard for people to accidentally delete due dates or assessment tasks from their list. That's a big consideration. In terms of learnability, yeah, so we want it to be easy to learn how to use, because particularly with our school, the Brisbane School of Distance Education, we often get new students coming through all the time. So the easier we can make it for them to pick up what we're putting down, the easier it makes it for us. So, and I guess in line with that too, with accessibility, we have a lot of students with disabilities, so we probably need to consider them in our interface design. And in terms of effectiveness, we wanted to, work well to organise students' workloads. And these are obviously quite broad statements. We can, branch out on these even further. So, we might consider things like vision, impairment, and how we can interact or work around that. Yeah, so I guess what's the word? I'll call it deficiencies. I can't think of a better word. All right, so that people who have difficulty reading might not, be able to just simply have a text-based solution. We might need to think a little bit more outside of the square around that. All right, but I guess the discussion around interface, usability principles makes me think, well, you know, we do have those for data and code as well, so I probably haven't really included them. So in terms of my data criteria, you know, we might look at things like reliability, validity, can't spell validity, 4-time lucky, and integrity. Alright, so date. This is usually a big one with data integrity. So the format, whether it's day, month, year, or day, month, year. Do we use slashes? Do we use hyphens or dashes? Those sorts of things all need to be considered. All right, so, you know, we could continue expanding on this. But, you know, this is a pretty fair start. Again, the idea is not necessarily to give you the answer, because, again, there's no one true answer to how we go about solving this. But it's about that decomposition and the systems analysis, so how everything is going to fit together. So I suppose now that I have got as much done as I would like to, should save stuff as you go, obviously. There's options for saving here in Mind Map Maker. But I'm just going to export that as an image, and you'll see it gives me a nice image. I can right click on it and save that. You can see it's not coming up on the screen, but that's a pretty simple skill. I'm sure you guys have that covered. And I'm just going to save that here as Mind Map, and then apply that to my documentation. All right, so as I said, that's the first in our series, looking at how to put together a mind map. We will continue through the full process, so see you in the next one.